Welcome back to the Microsoft 365 Business Boost Show. I am one half of your host. Today I'll be 1/3 of your host, Therman Trotman. I'm here with my guy, Nick DeCourcy. Nick, what's going on?
Hey, Therman, how you doing?
I'm great, man. And I'm always, like I always say, I'm always great, but I get extra excited when we have a guest on. And today we got Michael Bargury from Zenity. Michael, what's going on? How you doing?
Hey guys, it's great to be here.
Yeah, nice to have you. Now, Nick, this is a long time coming, right? Like having Michael on the show because you discovered him back in what, 2024?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been following what Michael's been doing for a while now because, if you're someone watching this and you're kind of really into the idea of what's AI security all about, what's agent security all about, what are the risks with these things, then you're probably like, Michael Bargury needs no introduction whatsoever because you are one of the most prominent voices on this. But for everyone else that isn't such a nerd when it comes to this kind of stuff, it's probably worth having like an intro of, this is the guy to listen to when it comes to why AI is a different type of risk. And, we all know that in business, there are risks with everything that we do. With IT, there are risks that we've all had to get used to managing. And as we're moving into the AI age, there are new things that we need to think about. And Michael is one of the leading voices, if not the leading voice, on these types of issues, in my opinion. And so it's fantastic to be able to have you here, Michael, to discuss this with us.
Cheers, Tom and Nick. This is really I really appreciate the kind intro. Look, this is a new space, and we've just been poking at it for a few years now, and it turns out that a few years is like quite a lot in AI. And so I think I absolutely agree with like the way that you structure even thinking about it. At the end of the day, we are trying to get AI to make business decisions, to go to a place where it makes business decisions. And that by definition means risk, right? That's just at the core of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael, real quick, before we dive all the way in, can you just give me an understanding of how you got here? Like a how and a why, maybe. Like why'd you choose this field? Why are you leaning into it? What led you here?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So I got into this space because actually before AI hit, I was working on security for citizen development. So we were deep into the Power Platform ecosystem. We were deep into other types of citizen development ecosystems. We were working with the largest companies out there to try and make sense. How do you remain secure while everybody can build, everybody can create? Mm-hmm. And that turned out to be a very good thing to focus on, where now everybody's vibe coding, right? That kind of took over the world. So no code used to be a niche. Now everything is no code. We just call it vibe coding. So this is where I got started. I was doing Zenity got started there. We built a company around it. We helped customers with that. And then I was actually at Microsoft campus in Redmond when Copilot Studio launched. And the moment I saw that, I was like, yeah, okay, this changes the ballgame. Because Microsoft at the time had a very early lead in AI. And they were the first to kind of take AI and put it right where your data is. ChatGPT was awesome, but it didn't have access to your data back then. And so they were the ones to kind of push this to something that makes the enterprise, that hits the enterprise data. And in that moment, because I was so deep into that ecosystem, I knew what that meant. I knew what the risk means. And so we kind of the entire company from that moment, it didn't take us a long time to focus everything on security for agents. Those were not called agents at the time. But one of the things that when I went out and kind of looked at the AI security space, what I found is that most people were thinking about AI security as, hey, don't let AI say things to me that it should not say. Don't let AI teach me on how to, build a nuclear bomb or something that I should be searching at work or something like that. And I realized that this is actually not the biggest risk. This is a content moderation problem. It's important, right? Content moderation is important, but it's not about security. Security is about making sure somebody external or an adversary can't create a meaningful outcome, a bad outcome, from what I created. I realized that this now opens an entire attack surface that we're going to need to manage. And so very quickly after that, I gave a couple of pretty influential Black Hat talks that showed how, for the first time, we were able to use AI as an attack vector to get into organization. The bigger one of those was the attack on Microsoft Copilot, where through sending an email, we hijacked Copilot. So I send an email to you. Copilot reads that email. You don't have to interact with the email at all. I hijack your Copilot, and now I can insert your files on your behalf and send them to me without you knowing. That now is like very commonplace in every AI system. But back in the day, that was the first time we saw that. And that really changed the conversation to focus on like AI as the outcomes of AI, the tools that AI has at its disposal. And of course, now with the age of agents and co-work and all of those things, that's just been on steroids, right? The last 2 years have been trying to drink from a fire hose.
Right. Yeah. And I guess there's no slowing down. Like we should expect that fire hose to continue for who knows how long, right? It's
yeah, I think we're living in unprecedented times, not because of the tech, by the way. I think the tech the tech is cool. But the more unprecedented thing from my perspective is that enterprises are willing to change, right? That's not, enterprises don't want to change. They want to stay the same. They want everything to be the same. But with AI, they are ready for real transformation and they want it now. And that I think is a unique moment in time.
Well, what do you mean? What's the change that these that the enterprise, in your opinion, should be making based on AI, or one change?
I think the first thing that people have, so in the last 2 years, people were experimenting with AI co-pilots and AI tools, and they gained some benefit out of it, but not as much as they expected. And in the last, I want to say like 6 months with Claude Code, with OpenClaw, there were these big moments where people realized, oh wow, like this can actually drive a business process. This can actually get a non-developer to build something that only a developer could build earlier. This can actually create a slide for me, not just like explain to me how to create a slide. Or this can monitor my email box. This can be an entire amplification of the human workforce. And so once you understood that, I think something flipped. And especially executives across the enterprises realize that if they don't act now, they're going to left behind. And acting now means fully embracing that technology. And that is not just about embracing technology. It's mostly about people and process. It's about changing the way that you work. So AI is a native part of that, which is a big lift. And again, it means you might need to restructure things. You might need to rethink workflows. You might need to rethink R&R. You might need to rethink where do you focus your people. And so these are big questions that enterprises are not used to making changes with like very, very fast. But this is what I'm seeing across very large companies.
Yeah, definitely. Nick, you're big on safe AI, secure AI, and all the things that Michael's talking about. Do you also, I'm assuming you feel the same way, like enterprise, we've talked about it, the enterprise needs to change. Like, do you see your experience? Do you see the same sense of urgency with the organizations you might work with? Do they understand that they have to change?
I think there's two different dimensions of this change, right? There's the dimension around like how does AI change the shape of work, right? So and that's what's going on. It is changing that shape in many ways, and it's also changing the way that we allow outside stuff or even inside stuff to interact with the processes that we have for doing business. Like I think if we could backtrack just slightly, Michael, it might be useful to the audience to think about, well, why is there a risk that exists in using AI that might be a bit hidden? And the way that I might explain it, and please jump in and correct me if you think I'm going in the wrong direction, but we're really used to using IT systems where a lot of effort has been made to sanitize the stuff that's going into them, right? We want clean data. We want to make sure that when we ask for an email address, we get an email address. Where we want to ask for a phone number, we get a phone number. So when you take it out the other side, you can be fairly sure that's what you're getting, right? With AI, we don't really do that. We just kind of take the stuff that exists, whether it comes from internally or whether it's a message we get from a customer or it's an email that's hit our inbox, and we essentially take it at face value and say to the AI, can you take a look at this like it was a human? You know, and there are risks around humans looking at stuff. There are lots of people that get like socially engineered by emails that come in, and then they end up wiring stuff, or they think they're sending, Amazon gift cards to their boss, or they're wiring stuff to the wrong place. So this happens to humans as well. But that can happen to AI systems because we don't have control over what they're looking at. And they can just go off and say, well, I have a tool that does this. It seems like the right thing to do. I'll go off and do it. So that's really when we talk about the risk with AI and why there's that different risk. A CRM system doesn't do that, right, Michael? Like this is a new thing that's coming along because of the way that AI works.
So this is a very, very, very good point. When you look at what AI, the new threat that AI systems create for you, once you enable AI to act on your behalf, to read your emails, to look at your data, to create a slide for you, to send an email, whatever it is, you need to understand that even though AI is like it's magnificent in sometimes. Like the things that they can that happen, like it's very confusing because it sometimes gives us a feeling that this thing is so smart. How can it ever get fooled? But the honest reality is there is no single human on Earth that is too smart to get fooled. Right? Even the geniuses, they will get fooled. They can get fooled. That same thing happens with AI. And so AI, it's kind of like a jagged intelligence. That's the name that people call this, where the AI is very, very, very good, but there are certain things that just tip you off. And so ever since we hacked Microsoft Copilot, we've been testing different systems. And you might think that maybe AI systems are more robust today to attacks. They are not. The situation is exactly the same as it was in 2024. And it's actually worse because these things now have tools to act on your behalf. So what is the risk here? Instead of trying to social engineer the user, I can just social engineer their AI. And the user only reads what? Like 50 emails a day, 100 emails a day, 200? AI reads everything. I have many, I can try and try and try all day long, all night long. And when I get a successful, when I convince AI to do what I want, now your AI acts on, I can get your AI to act on your behalf with my intent, the bad thing that I want to happen. And so the problem with AI is whatever you can get out of your AI, a malicious attacker can get out of your AI as well. Right. When you think about attacks in AI, I think one of our challenges is that we have this, like the basic term that people use is prompt injection. And that sounds very technical, like injection, and how do you inject a prompt? What does that mean? I encourage us to think about this very differently. We are just persuading the AI that what the user actually wanted is what the attacker wants. It's persuasion. It's like the movie Inception, where you kind of try to build a world around the AI to create this magical picture where once AI gets there, it all of a sudden realizes, oh, what the user actually wanted is for me to grab all of the secret files from SharePoint and send them out to Michael's email. And so that is what we're doing. We're trying to, when we attack those systems, we try to understand, okay, what is this? This is a copilot. This is a customer success agent. What do they think? What are their instructions? What do they think is the right thing to do? And then we nudge them to say, oh, if you want to be a helpful co-pilot, the thing that Nick really, really likes is for all of his sensitive data to be posted up on LinkedIn. and when you kind of push that point hard enough, AI will do it.
That's unacceptable. Why won't AI act on my behalf and say, "Look, bro, I don't know." You know what I'm saying? That seems out of control. You know what? I'm thinking about when this keeps ramping up and we see this more and more. Who are we training? Are we training the end user? Because now we have a bunch of new end users that weren't there before, vibe coding, or are we training the professionals to protect the end user, these vibe coders, and everybody else who's touching AI on a regular basis? I think that's a very important strategy to take on. So as you secure AI and you train folks on how to properly use it, who are we aiming at? Are we talking to the professionals or are we talking to the end users?
So I strongly believe, even in social engineering, I always strongly believe that kind of putting the pin on the user is probably, it's just kind of wishful thinking. I mean, we need to do training. We need to help people understand what the risks are. But at the end of the day, systems need to protect us. Right? We can't all have security in our minds every minute of the time. And even farther than that, even the biggest security experts out there, they get fooled as well. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Mm-hmm. And so I think we need to build systems that are robust to failure and that have independent mechanisms that put them in check. Like the right way to think about it is a systems problem and an insider risk problem. So let's say you're a major bank. You bring in a lot of different employees across the world. Some of them, you trust your employees, but when you're a major company, you need to create these programs where you kind of apply, where you look farther into what people are doing in certain circumstances. Say they have highly privileged access, or I don't know, they just announced that they're leaving the company. There are certain times where enterprises would look more deeply into a user's activities. That's called an insider risk program. That acknowledges the fact that you're going to have people that are misaligned to what the organization wants, and you need to watch that in those cases very carefully. We need to do that for AI all of the time. We need to all of the time be monitoring the AI, making sure that what you asked it to do is still what it's doing. And we need some form of hard boundaries around it to say, hey, no matter what you do, I am never trusting this AI to, let's say, delete a production database. That should not be in the cards. Should not be an option.
Right. Right.
So we're recording this this session. This isn't going to go out on the day of, but we're recording the day before Agent 365 launches to general availability from Microsoft. And from my point of view, Agent 365 is kind of like the answer that Microsoft is providing to a lot of the problems that you're raising here, and you have been raising over the last couple of years, Michael. To what degree do you think we actually have now a technology solution in what's being built there to address the kind of things that we're talking about?
So first I want to say, I know the A365 team. I appreciate their work. I think they're great. And I am really excited for Microsoft to be taking this step, because this is a great step forward for the entire community. I think when you look at AI and security of AI, and by the way, people say security of AI or security or AI for security. There's kind of a distinction. I think what we really care about is security from AI. Don't let AI do bad stuff to the things that we care about. I think that there are two categories of problems that we are facing. One category of problem is that AI is just a gold rush. Right? This is a gold rush right now. every new tool, we're going to adopt it. We're going to do it fast. We're going to let everybody build. What happens in a gold rush? You make a bunch of mistakes. You take on a lot of risk. You misconfigure a lot of things. Things that end up on the internet. That is one class of the problem. The second class of the problem is that AI is just weird. It's weird. It's behaving in ways that software does not behave in. So, for example, when software fails, it might fail gracefully, it might fail ungracefully, but it will never lie to you, to your face, and say, hey, no, I didn't fail, you failed. But AI does. That's weird. That's something different.
My fault. Real quick, I want to jump on that real quick because I think that it might need to be classified as something other than software. Like you're calling it software, and I know, we use it inside of our computers the same way we would use a spreadsheet. You know what I mean? Like you would go into the spreadsheet and you would type on your keyboard, you would interact with something you see on your screen, you'd get responses, you give it responses, things happen. You use AI the same way, but it's a different story. It's bigger than software. It doesn't like, to your point, it's weird. It doesn't behave like software. So I'm with you with that. It needs to be called something else.
I think that the best way to think about just in terms of a practical discussion, the best practical way to think about AI is to think about humans. I'm not saying AI is a human. I am saying it's just the right mindset that helps us figure out how to kind of reason about it. And so those two problems are different. Those two classes of problems are different problems. Are this different? They require different solutions, or the solution needs to be connected, but they require different types of depth. And so many different providers right now, AI services, AI vendors like Microsoft, but others as well, are building these agent control planes, which is very important because the agents are going to be running a major part of our businesses. So we better know which agents we have, who owns them, do the versioning. Like there's so much there. And I think the fact that Microsoft has taken this step early is really, really, really good. I think that will provide some help with the first problem I mentioned, which is the gold rush problem. Because you have a place where you can see your agents, I do want to caution us against you're going to have agents everywhere. No Microsoft shop is just a Microsoft shop. You're going to have agents across, like in other systems as well. You're going to build your own agents, right? And that battle on, hey, who's going to be the one control plane that controls all of the agents? That is very much contested grounds, right? And nobody really today has a full-blown solution. And there are third parties, Zenity is one of them, but there are many others that will try to give you that kind of independent view. But the second problem, the AI is weird problem, that is a big problem. It's a deep problem. And to be very frank, it's an unsolved problem. I don't think it will ever have a solution. We are not going to fix this. We are only going to manage the problem. So that's a very important point. I don't think we'll end up in a way where one day AI will not be, or the AI that we have today will not have these problems. This is not going away. This is staying with us. What we can do is manage it. And so the optimistic thing I have to say after saying this is that we have other problems that are not going away. Social engineering is also not going away. Okay, but we manage. We are still successful. We just manage the problem. And so for that, I think this problem is staying with us for the long run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really interesting. I think the fact is that people are weird as well, right? And we're just the tension is not that AI is weird; it's that we're not used to the things that we see happening within a computer being weird. We're used to them being very prescriptive, and we're very used to people being weird and people making mistakes and so on and so on. We've set up the way we manage businesses is kind of it's really set on the basis of we expect people to make mistakes, and we manage things in a way that is expecting of those mistakes, accepting of those mistakes, and make sure, as much as we can, we correct them before they go out the door. We just don't have that experience with the IT that we've grown up with. And I know the last time we chatted, Therman, we talked about this idea of, well, different where you started off from anchors you in a way, right? And I was talking about the scenario of I've been chatting with my mum a lot recently, and she's been talking about buying things that she needs for her home. And for the last 25 years, the way that she's done that most of the time has been to go to a website and order something, and then it's arrived at her door. But she still talks about it from the point of view of, I'm going to look through the catalogue and I'm going to send away in the mail for it. She doesn't do that anymore, but that's just where her mind is anchored, because that's what she grew up with, that's what she's used to. I think there's a degree to which our minds are anchored in what computers used to be before AI came along. And I don't think that's going to change. And I think to a certain extent, we're going to see perhaps babies today being these AI natives that don't think any differently to AI and are very used to a computer being as weird as a human in terms of how it talks to us or what it does. And they just kind of shrug their shoulders and that's what they're used to. I don't think our generation, we're ever going to be used to that. I think we are just anchored in a technology situation that has now disappeared. And we're going to feel a little bit out of sorts with it until we finally retire at some point in the future and don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah, the thing about that is that it frequently happens to me with AI is, let's say I get some numbers. If I'm working inside of a table spreadsheet, I'm probably not going to be doing that. I'm probably going to be in SharePoint. If I'm looking at SharePoint, I'm looking at some information, and I have a Power BI report that reports on that information, like it shows me the data. If I look at the Power BI report, I just default to believing it is just showing what is inside of SharePoint, period. Like, and if I see something that looks off, I can go check these numbers inside of SharePoint. When you get mistakes chatting with AI, where do you, what do you, how do you check? Like, that's a frustrating thing to me when I say, hey, give me something. And then I look at it and I'm like, I don't know about that. If it's something off the web, then yeah, I can go to the web. I can do my research. I could do all of that. But when I'm talking like something that seems off and I don't have a place to check, that's a disconnect in my brain, because for all of these years, anything that I needed to check, I have some source. But it's like the source behind AI is mysterious because some of it, or maybe a lot of it, is made up. It's like pseudo math, you know what I'm saying, where it puts some things together. Maybe you saw me speak in a certain way, and so you're like, oh, this is the kind of way that you type and speak. I'm going to speak to you in that way because you're expecting me to sound like you, which is not necessarily true. When I talk to people, they sound different than me, and some people sound the same as me. But why is AI, a chatbot, doing the math, this pseudo math, to say you're speaking like that, so I should probably speak like that too? Stuff like that is, I think, falls under the category of weird, because nothing else that we use, me and Nick was talking about this, nothing else that we use has a default. Before you even start using it, it just defaults to saying, hey, some things are going to be wrong. That's crazy. What else do we use that says right off top, before you even begin using it, it says, hey, some things are going to be wrong, so just, deal with that. That's crazy to me. I don't understand. But
and I think
one of the
other, there are so many things about AI that I think I really appreciate this point of like, hey, we just have the wrong frame of mind for these things, because we're used to deterministic systems. And by the way, deterministic systems are what makes computers useful, right? So if you run a bank and you have a mainframe, you do not want this thing to be non-deterministic, right? You want this thing to operate as it should. Don't be creative on me. Don't hallucinate stuff. Just do what you're supposed to do, right? Humans, by the way, would have a challenge at being a mainframe, right? We used to have that, right? Many years ago, where people would be calculators, like actual calculators, and you would need lots of different humans to make sure there's no mistake. So we're using computers again exactly for their determinism. And now we have these systems that it's more than the fact that they are not deterministic. It's more than the fact that they can give you one answer and tomorrow another answer. That default, that's a bias that somebody else put into the model. When you're speaking with AI, when AI acts on your behalf, it has embedded in it a bunch of cultural values, biases, things that it thinks are good and bad. And these are design choices. That's the crazy part. These are design choices by the people that are building the models. And they're trying their best. Right. They're trying their best to create a model that's kind of good for humanity. But what does good for humanity means? So there was one research paper I saw, I think this was a couple of months back. Somebody took an open source model and they generated a bunch of code with that model. And then they figure out, they scanned the code to see how secure that code is. Is AI generating secure code or insecure code? And then they repeated the experiment, but they started the prompt by saying, hey, I'm an engineer from a specific country. And they used two different countries. One country in the kind of one in the US and one in the East. And guess what? The AI generated more vulnerabilities when it was prompted by a developer that is kind of in a place that is politically charged with the place where the model was created. You see what I mean? Like the culture embeds, hey, this is a bad thing. Vulnerabilities are a bad thing. So the two are interlinked. I don't think anybody did this by design, but these biases, they are baked into the model.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, because I know at the top you were talking a little bit, Michael, about, you know, the move to vibe coding, and I know similarly we both before this AI, you know, Copilot thing came along, were looking more at like the low code space, and Power Platform was where I kind of started with Microsoft technologies in my business. And one of the things that I find really interesting right now, and perhaps a little bit scary, is this shift to changing around the way we do things to make them more addressable by AI and less addressable by humans. And one of the places that I certainly see that within the Microsoft stack is this move from doing traditional like Power Apps over to doing code apps. And suddenly people who were citizen developers are sitting there vibe coding their stuff, getting back a lot of code that they don't understand in any way, and just assuming it's right. And I always talk about this view of, you know, there's a difference between it works and it being right. And depending on what you're using that tool for, that difference can be pretty significant in terms of the impact that you can end up with. And so I'm genuinely quite concerned that we're ending up with this like verifiability minefield of who is it who has the ability to verify that all of this stuff that's coming out is actually right. You know, just because the AI isn't so good at creating a Canvas app or not so good at creating a model-driven app and is much better at writing React doesn't mean that, you know, all that TypeScript it's creating or whatever it is suddenly, you know, as good or as verifiable. And the person sitting in the chair in front of it, and I include myself with this because you would not want to see code that I write, I have no idea. Suddenly our skills are completely useless. We can no longer verify that what we're seeing is right. And we see this across, you know, researcher reports that no one ever reads. We see this across, you know, using tools and just click. I've seen it in demos that technical people have done where they're just like, click yes, 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 yes. They're just clicking. And that's their demo. They never say stop and read what it's actually doing, understand what this thing is happening. They're just like, it's just a gate of pressing yes. I'm really concerned that we're losing our ability to verify what's going on here. What do you think of that? Do you see those things as connected? And do you see that as a problem that we need to solve?
So I think there are two I want to raise 2 points. One is that I think we are missing good UX people to drive how we engage with AI. Because there is one very good idea that stuck, which is the chat interface, right? There is now a second one, which is the terminal, because of Claude Code. And you can see that in things like Cowork that basically just prettify it, but it's the same kind of experience. And that's it. And what you're saying is, hey, like, I'm not a technical user. Why are you showing me code? Why can't you generate the thing in something that I can understand? I can drag a bunch of boxes. I can reason about it. Like, talk to me in my language, not in somebody else's language. And I think that makes a lot of sense. I think the reason why AI, the fact that right now AI was just so successful, and frankly, Anthropic was so successful with coding agents that everybody's using it because it's so much more powerful than anything else, but it's not meant for anybody. It's meant for a developer. And so it puts code in your face at the first moment in time. But the second thing I'll say is that even developers, so Zenity has, like, we have a 250 people company. And I have a big organization that runs engineering, and engineers had to shift their own work. They're used to craft the code. They're used to understand exactly what's going on. And now they are working with AI. And they too feel that in some cases, you can lose track of how do I verify that this thing makes sense. And that becomes their work. So this kind of verifying that the system does what it should is actually, we have a name for that. That's QA. But we've kind of, in the industry, we haven't put QA up on the pedestal and said, hey, like, this is the most important thing, right? QA is not at the center of every business. And actually, in the last 10 years, especially in software engineering, we've kind of pushed QA aside in the SaaS era. Where we said, oh, we don't need QA. We'll just continue to ship, and customers will complain, but we'll ship another thing tomorrow, right? I won't name any names, but some companies we know. I mean, no, I'm kidding. This is the SaaS era. The SaaS era is using your users as QA. That's just that. The problem is that now we need QA people the most because they know how to verify something they don't understand.
I was also going to say, like, what we'll see, right? Which we've already seen happen because of the internet. Like, what the internet did, amongst a lot of things, is it gave rise to people who didn't follow standards, right? So they entered industries and there wasn't any standards that they had to follow because the internet removed a lot of gatekeepers. This turned out to be a great thing and a bad thing at the same time. So journalism is a perfect example. Journalism, you go through you go through school, you learn how you're supposed to do actual journalism, and you do it. You know what I'm saying? I don't know about it, but I know as an end user what it feels like to consume good journalism. The internet made it so that you could be anybody, anywhere, and do anything pretty much. So now you don't necessarily have to be a journalist, but you know how to get eyeballs on. So you do this thing where you get eyeballs on, and then you know how to keep the eyeballs, and you know how to stir up controversy, and you don't follow standards. Like I was telling Nick about this not that long ago, where if you're previously, when you would see an advertisement for some type of article and words were put in quotes, if the words were put in quotes, it should signal to you that, oh, that is a direct quote that someone made. And when I read that article, I'll get to see where they made that quote. Now, that's not followed. You can put words inside of quotes, go read the article, and never see those words said by anyone. This is the problem part. The problem part is anybody can jump in whatever industry and do whatever they want. The good thing is that real good journalists can now get information to you faster. They can get access to more information so they can get you higher quality journalism. All of that is excellent. But the same thing happened in the software space. So, or it's going to happen because, as you saw, the gold rush that you talk about, this means any and everybody who don't follow standards can now produce something in front of a lot of people that they use that has vulnerabilities, that has, it didn't go through the QA. Nick, to your point, they can't verify the code that developed it. It's a great thing for the industry and the professionals. It's not so good for the people who don't know the standards and don't even want to follow the standards. Maybe they want to make a quick buck. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's where we're headed. We cannot do anything about that. Like, we just have to. Matter of fact, we're not headed there. We're there. It's just going to get amplified as we keep going. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think part of the thing that's, we're kind of always, as Nick mentioned, like we kind of get stuck in one period of time. Right? So I don't know, I grew up with the internet, so for me the internet is kind of obvious. We've always had the internet. And in my lifetime, when you saw a picture, that meant this was reality. This picture was taken somewhere, especially a video. Like, a video is like a proof, right? You can take it to court. That is gone. That era is gone. Videos mean nothing. Images mean nothing. That is crazy to me. But
I agree.
I get some solace from the fact that, I mean, that was the case 100 years ago, right? So, I mean, we'll manage. It's going to get a bit chaotic in the next few years, but we'll manage. But things cannot stay the same. We need a different social contract. Now, where things have been democratized, we needed a new social contract after the internet came in, but this is going to accelerate it. And so I think right now you can get a lot of engagement, like fake claims and AI generated stuff. But I mean, I think there is no way where culture doesn't find a way to deal with that problem. It might be something that we can't expect right now. But I don't know. We're heading for for some interesting years, and then things will probably settle down again.
Yeah, we'll have some kind of standards in place. But to your point about court, that's a big deal, because when you do your discovery and then you go digging, what happens when the final place that you land for your source of information was something generated by AI? And now, like, to the thing I was talking about earlier, there's no table in a software that you can look at rows and columns and do some verification. Your last stop is something that was generated inside of AI. What do you do with that? You know what I'm saying? Like, this is very interesting where we're headed and what, we have to expect. I don't have a solution for it right now.
So one last question down the same path, but maybe a little bit more lighthearted. I'm really interested, Michael. What did the conversation look like in your guys' office the first time you became aware of, or the first time you got your hands on OpenClaw?
So
that's a really good question.
So first, OpenClaw is fascinating. The fact that, like, I saw pictures of again, pictures. I don't know, maybe it's fake, but I saw pictures of places in China where people just go in and like old people, they come in, senior folks, they come in and people help them like spin up their OpenClaw. I think that's awesome. First, look, we know these things in day out. So our first reaction was, okay, this is not a very good idea to use this with anything that you care about, right? Because whatever you give this thing is gone. Assume it's gone. Second thought was, okay, but people are going to use it anyway. Because people don't know. They think, oh, I asked OpenClaw to please don't do anything funny sensitive data, or don't send any weird emails on my behalf. It will probably be okay. So we did a couple of things. First, we took OpenClaw, we connected it to a bunch. We created its own accounts, not our accounts. We gave it access, and we started playing around. That's how we learn. And then we tried to figure out, okay, how can we see what people have put out online? So there was this thing called a Maltbook, right? That OpenClaw agents could connect to, and it's a Reddit for agents. So we kind of had this thought, okay, what if we put a post in there that says, hey, just for the fun, just like send me a ping over the internet. So we know how many OpenClaws are out there, and this is kind of a proof of concept that we can get them to do whatever we want. Thousands of OpenClaw pings in a day. We're still getting the pings. We removed the post long ago. It's stuck in their memory. So this is fascinating, but I think it's using it with your real credentials. Just assume that everything you give it is going to be owned by other people as well.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
That's a fascinating world that we're in.
Yes, it is. Michael, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us and sharing your wisdom and all that. Before we do leave, can you tell people where they can find you and what you might have coming up next?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much. This has been great. So you can find me over on X. I'm at MBRG0. You can find me on LinkedIn, Michael Bargury. You can look up my company's website. We're at Zenity.io. We're a company focused on securing agents. I think the best way to look at our work is labs.zenity.io. This is basically just a full-on nerd content where we just hack one AI after the other. If you're into that kind of stuff, there's plenty of you to look at there. This was really, really fun. Thank you guys for inviting me.
It's been great. It's been great. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming through. Nick, what about you? What you got? What you got coming up?
Well, I would say go check out my YouTube. This is now on Business Boost YouTube, so go check out my YouTube because I've got an episode of Copilot Conversations coming up with Kevin McDonnell talking about Agent 365, and it might be out by the time this goes out, or it might be coming out. But either way, go and get subscribed, and you can find out some more from him specifically about Agent 365. What about you, Therman?
I mean, TikTok. I used to scream LinkedIn all day, but these days, if you want to see SharePoint in action, come on over to TikTok.
If you want to see Therman dance, go check out his TikTok.
Yeah, no dancing, no dancing.
Are you dancing with SharePoint?
Absolutely not.
Now that could be a prompt for an AI video, couldn't it? Maybe we should work on that one.
Yeah, someone can go prompt that up and got me out here looking crazy. You know what I'm saying? But hopefully, that doesn't become a thing. Oh man, Michael and Nick, thanks again. This was fun, very informative. For those watching or listening, I hope you found this informative. Leave a comment, any questions and anything that we talked about, you'll see the link to in the description. So thanks again.